Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is not an easy one. It is a bit difficult to understand because it goes with aviation industry, it goes with the problems being faced by the pilots and not at all easy to understand. You have to listen very carefully. Only then you can understand. That is one reason. Second reason, why is it not that easy? Another reason, some of the sentences are lengthy and you have to read twice or thrice. Only then you can understand. Let us start the session with the question, what is this editorial about? This editorial is about the efforts, whose efforts, of the Directorate General of Civil Aviation DGCA. Am I audible? In India to introduce changes to flight duty time limitations. Flight duty time limitations in order to. Why do they want to introduce changes to flight duty time limitations? What is the purpose behind? In order to address issues of fatigue among pilots. In this context, address means to deal with issues of fatigue. Fatigue means to get exhausted. Thanks for responding. To get exhausted, to get tired a lot. Issues of fatigue among whom? Among pilots. In a nutshell, this is about the problem of pilots. What is the problem being faced by the pilots? Fatigue. And why this fatigue? Because of long flight journeys without respite, without break. Exactly. Then when you come across something like this, I told you when it comes to reading, there are two skills you have to have, or two things you have to resort to. One is skimming, the other one scanning. Skimming means what? To give a quick look. When you have a look at the editorial, quick glance, you know, oh, this is about pilots, their problems. Then you have to guess the framework. What could be the framework? Because it is about the problems related to pilots, related to long flight journeys, you have to think of the body behind this rules and regulations that go with flying. And what is that organization? Directorate General of Civil Aviation. And why have they written? Perhaps they have come up with new rules and something went wrong. Then you have to think what were the new rules, why were they not implemented, and what could be the reason behind, and in the long run, what is the solution? These are the things you have to think of before you start reading. Now let us go to skimming means quick glance, scanning means to read in detail. The tone of the editorial, because it talks about the problems related to pilots, the tone of the editorial is critical. First, concerned. Whenever we talk about someone's problems, obviously we have to show concern. There should be some sort of empathy. And critical, why is it critical? Because aviation body brought out some rules, but the lobbying group, the private players in the industry, they didn't want to implement those rules. Based on that, critical. How does it start? Flight from fatigue. In this context, when you see the word flight, you may think because it is about flying, pilots, aviation industry, it has got something to do with uh, that thing. No, actually, there are two words you have to know. One is fight, I'll rewrite. Fight or flight mechanism. What is this fight or flight mechanism? Whenever we face we face a danger, either we try to fight or we try to escape. Big cats, lions, tigers, leopards, cheetahs, they always take fight mechanism. The lion, the tiger tries to attack, always ready to fight. But other animals, man, we also, including snakes, we always try to take flight mechanism. Then you may ask, so what is the meaning of the word flight? Flight means another meaning, escape. Flight means what? Escape. And based on that, here, escape from fatigue. Here, flight means what? Escape. Escape from what? Fatigue. Fatigue means what? Extreme tiredness. And still, what is this about? On the DGCA and flight to duty time limitation norms. The word norms we have got many a time. Norms, it can be a noun, it can be, usually it is a noun, not a verb. Something that is usual, typical, or standard. It is related to, as I said, rules and regulations, norms related to or imposed by DGCA in regard to the problems of the pilots. But what is the main idea of this editorial? The DGCA must ensure, must, we have got so many times, I'm sure you guys know, must has two functions. One function, it is used to express a personal obligation. Another function, it is used to convey the idea something is compulsory. Here, the writer's obligation, obligation imposed by the editorial, obligation imposed by the writer. The DGCA must ensure means what? Make sure regulatory norms, regulatory standards are enforced. Enforce, nowadays, enforcement directorate in the limelight. Enforce means to compel someone, to force someone to comply with the rules and regulations. Enforced for safety. They should make sure the regulatory norms are implemented or they are enforced for what? For safety, safety of pilots. Now, how does it start? The move by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation DGCA in January this year to introduce changes to flight duty time limitations would have been a much needed regulatory step to address the industry issue of fatigue in a professional and scientific manner or manage what crew call the burden of the red eye flight. A sentence from here to here looks like impose, that's right, Anusha. Looks like a paragraph. Whenever you come across a lengthy sentence, nowadays are giving in different competitive exams under error location, you have to read the sentence meticulously. First, you have to identify the subject, then the verb, then the object. This is rather easy, but this is not the pattern. It's a lengthy sentence. After the subject, you may see a phrase or a clause. After the object, you may see a phrase or a clause. And your job is whenever you come across a lengthy sentence, you have to identify the phrases, clauses, after the subject, after the object, and look at all the phrases and clauses meticulously. Only then you can spot the error. That is one thing, exam point of view. But in this context, to understand, to comprehend, you have to read once or twice. Let's see what exactly it talks about. The move, the initiative by DGCA in January this year to introduce changes. It is about the changes introduced, the initiative taken by the DGCA to introduce changes to flight duty time limitations would have been a much needed regulatory step to address the industry issue of fatigue. Would have been an important. Answer my question, where do we use would have been? Here you have to recollect past conditional. There would have been. Only one clause has been used, main clause. This is usually it goes with the main clause. Had you attended the party, you would have enjoyed the party a lot. Had you attended, one pattern. If you had attended, that both mean the same. When we drop the word if, we have to use the clause in interrogative form. If you had you attended, it would have been wonderful. Would have been, it goes with past conditional. But here only the main clause has been used. Would have been a much needed, much required regulatory step or regulatory norm to address. In this context, address means to deal with the industry issue or the industry problem of fatigue in a professional and scientific manner, or manage what crew call the burden of the red eye flight. Here there is one word, burden. Burden, something difficult or unpleasant that you have to deal with or worry about. One meaning of burden, load. The load one has to carry burden. But here, something difficult or unpleasant you have to bear with, you have to put up with, you have to deal with. The burden of what? The red eye flight. Red eye flight goes more with lack of sleep, red eye flight. By dictating more rest time. Based on this problem, the DGCA has come up with some regulations, some norms that focus on the rest or the respite badly needed by the pilots. Based on that, by dictating more rest time for pilots, redefining night duty, and even directing airlines to file regular fatigue reports. That is a good initiative. Cutting down the time, one thing. Rest time, increasing rest time, redefining night duty. And the third one is an important initiative, in my opinion. Even directing airlines to file regular fatigue reports, the rules were to have been implemented. This is also very important. Were to. I was to write a letter. I was to address the public. Means what? According to one arrangement, I was to do that. But here, were to have been implemented. This is in passive voice. Were to have been implemented no later than June 1st, on or before June 1st. They were to be implemented. And here, last time also I told, whenever you come across certain words, you have to be alert and recollect. That's what a smart learner does. What is that you are supposed to recollect here? One is later, the other one latter. What is the already Anushya has posted? What is the difference between the two? This refers to time factor and this refers to position. They've given many a time under pressure not easy. So in a nutshell, it talks about certain initiatives in favor of the pilots, and these norms or initiatives were to be implemented on or before June 1st, but unfortunately they were not implemented. Obviously, then you have to ask the question, why were they not implemented? Though they are good from the pilot's point of view. Instead, contrasting information, a large section of the managements of India's airlines, most in private hands, only saw red. In this editorial, today's editorial, a lot of idioms are there. Instead of appreciating, because the norms, the rules, the initiatives deal with the address the problems of the pilots. What is the major problem of the pilots? Fatigue. It should have been appreciated. Instead of appreciating, a large section of the managements of India's airlines, most in private hands, only saw red. See red is an idiomatic expression. To become very angry. To become very angry, see red. In what does it say? Instead of appreciating the airlines, managements of India's airlines, and many of the managements of India's airlines are in the hands of the private people, in the sense industrialists. They became angry. They saw red. In a discordant, I think we got this word yesterday also, something that is not in agreement with something else. Discordant goes with music. Something is not harmonious, we use the word discordant. Here, in a discordant development this week, the DGCA quietly inked a copy of the revised civil aviation requirements, CAR, based on the anger of the managements of India's airlines, which are in the private hands. DGCA quietly, quiet, again, you have to be alert. One is quiet, the other one quiet. Quite big means very big. That is an adjective. You can also use adverb. And quiet place, adjective. Calm. DGCA quietly inked a copy of the revised civil aviation requirements, which said that scheduled air transport operators may continue to operate in compliance with the new revised civil aviation requirements. Stated something. What did it state? Which said that reporting verb, you got to be careful. Scheduled air transport operators may continue. Already they have scheduled. They can continue with the schedule. Scheduled air transport operators may continue to operate in compliance with comply with, follow the rules and regulations. We have got so many times. Follow, stick to, adhere to, all these you have to recollect. In compliance with CAR Section 7 Series J Part 3, dated 24th April 2019, till approval of their respective scheme in compliance with this CAR. This is a little technical, but basically what it means, the DGC allowed the private operators to continue with the old pattern in a nutshell. Read in perspective. This is an important expression you have to know. One thing is read in perspective, here read in perspective. If it is read in perspective, you can also think of one important expression, reading between the lines. Here, reading between the lines. I use this. This goes with everyday English. And also, when it comes to teaching, when we tell students how to read and comprehend a particular passage, we say you come across two types of information. One is explicit, the other one is implicit. Explicit means printed in the passage. You can easily answer, anyone can answer, a child can also answer. But if the question is not there in the information is not printed in the passage, but when you read the passage, you get the message, then that is known as implicit, implied. And here we tell students to understand or to get the implicit information, you have to read between the lines. Read between the lines means what? To understand the hidden meaning or implied meaning. That is an important expression you have to know. Read in perspective, it meant, what does it mean? What did it mean? When you read in perspective, read in perspective, the new thing, it meant this: airline economics had blanketed out safety. Blanket out, another, it is a phrasal verb. The writer has used a few idioms, a few phrasal verbs. Blanket out, we all know the word blanket as a noun. Here, blanket out is a phrasal verb. To obscure or obstruct, interfere with, overpower. In a way, overpower or obscure or cover. It meant this: airline economics had blanketed out safety. Airline economics interfered with safety or overpowered safety. Actually, between the two, what is important? Safety or economics? Safety important, but in this context, airline economics, because the stakes are very high, had blanketed out safety. As highlighted in the media, a federation of Indian Airlines had sought a postponement of the rules. Why did this happen? Why did DGCA could not implement the rules? Every industry there is a lobbying group, and they are known as a pressure groups. And those lobbying groups they resort to lobbying, obviously safety. Thanks for responding. These lobbying groups, pressure groups, they put pressure on the government either to withdraw the new rules or postpone. And yielding to them, they must have done it. And this is according to the media. As highlighted in the media, could be print media, could be broadcast media. As highlighted in the media, now Naidu Paidi also with all those words, good. As highlighted in the media, a federation of Indian Airlines, federation means a group of Indian Airlines, which is in the private hands, had sought a postponement of the rules by pushing the line that, why did they ask for the postponement of the rules? The reason for that, they gave two reasons. One, already scheduled, one thing. And if they postpone, they may lose business because peak summer is a peak business for them. Second, shortage of pilots, pushing the line that the new norms would necessitate the hiring of between 15% to 25% more pilots. New rules, if they have to follow the new rules, they have to recruit more pilots, 15 to 25% more pilots over a 10-month period. The time also 10-month period, and could even result in a nearly 20% cancellation of flights during the peak summer season. For aviation industry, the peak season is summer season. It is quite obvious. Why is it the peak season, summer season, vacation, holidays? People love to travel and they make a lot of money during that particular period. So they talked about two problems. One problem, dearth of pilots, shortage of pilots, and they need to recruit 15 to 25% more pilots, one thing. And that may take about 10 months. In this process, what happens, they have to cancel many flights during the peak season, that is summer season, and to what extent, to the tune of 20% cancellation. 20% cancellation, it makes a dent on their business. But as a number of aviation experts, there are three parties over here. One is DGCA, the other one private players who run the airlines, and the third one experts, aviation experts. Now the editorial presents a view of the aviation experts. But as a number, you have to be alert. There are two phrases. The number takes a singular verb. They have given many a time, and a number takes plural verb. This between the two, the first one is very important. They have given many a time. The number of students have gone up. Wrong. The number of students has gone up. Here, the number is a subject of praise. After that, we have another phrase of the students. You should not consider that phrase. The number has gone up. Singular verb. Here, a number, plural verb. But as a number of aviation experts point out, what is the expert's opinion? With the DGCA now willingly lowering the safety net, they have brought down the safety net. Pilots will continue to face fatigue related issues. They are going to face a lot of fatigue related issues. It provides a background information regarding the norms. In the early 1950s, recognizing the need to limit flight and duty hours for the purpose of safety, the International Civil Aviation Organization established guidelines under its standards and recommended practices. Again, practices, you have to be alert. Practice. What is the difference between these two? Don't say the spelling is different. One is a verb, the other one is a noun. Practices which required the operator to ensure that fatigue did not endanger operations. Fatigue should not endanger operations. Endanger, an important word. Put someone or something in danger. Generally, the word endanger goes with nowadays. We use it with species, genus, flora, fauna, plants, animals, endangered species. It can be endangered species, then it is an adjective. But endanger is a verb. Put someone or something in danger. You can also think of the word jeopardy, which required the operator to make sure that fatigue did not endanger operations. Because of fatigue, operations should not get affected. Since then, the management of fatigue in the industry, especially in international operations, has evolved. Since then, it has evolved. Since we have to use present perfect or present perfect continuous. Here, has evolved, present perfect, to include the adoption of fatigue risk management systems, one measure to deal with fatigue, which the DGCA is also planning by tap into an important phrasal verb to manage to use something in a way that brings good results. Tap into something. You use it in such a way that you get the good results. Tapping into scientific principles of fatigue management and aviation scheduling principles. There are two things over here. One is a fatigue management, sticking to scientific principles of fatigue management, and the other one, aviation scheduling principles. There are certain principles related to scheduling. They have to stick to those principles. The Indian aviation market, in the backdrop of a pilot shortage, is in high growth mode. Today, the aviation industry is growing, high growth mode, and with increased flying flowing from an expanding route map. One thing, demand is there, and the flying, increased flying from flowing from an expanding route map domestically and internationally. There are cases of the well being of flight crew facing much stress. Because of this increased flying, who is getting affected? The flight crew, and they undergo a lot of stress. That's what they are facing much stress. Ultra long haul flying. Long haul means something that takes effort over a long time rather than just a few days or weeks. Here, long haul flying means long time. Imagine India to the US. Sometimes it takes 16 hours, 20 hours, more than that. That is a long haul. Ultra means very, ultra modern, very modern. Ultra long haul flying with its own ecosystem of issues is on the rise too. Rise again, you have to recollect rise, raise with more wide body aircraft being inducted in India. Being introduced in India. What is being introduced? Wide body aircraft. Instead of taxiing back to the holding point, the DGCA needs to demonstrate an independence where it will still ensure that regulatory norms are enforced. Same idea is being reiterated. The DGCA needs to demonstrate independence. It should not yield to the lobbying groups or pressure groups and make sure where it will still ensure that regulatory norms are enforced and also aligned with the highest standards of safety. Whatever norms they come up with, they have to align with, means what? Agree with each other. Safety for flight crew because flight crew and passengers deserve safer flying. Why should they focus on these? Because here for is a conjunction. Because flight crew and passengers deserve safer flying. That is the main objective. Safety is the main thing. That's all about today's editorial. I brought the questions. Yesterday also I provided the PDF. Those who want the PDF, please join the Telegram group. If you want to join the Telegram group, all that you have to do after the video, go to the description of the video, see the link, click on the link, you go to the Telegram group, join. After the session in the afternoon, I provide the PDF with annotations that will help in a better way. And also the questions. Try to answer the questions on your own. That will improve your comprehension skill. Thanks for being with me till the fag end of the session. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. I will see you guys on Monday. Thank you very much. And do remember to subscribe and share.